The April 2025 Information Technology Advisory Commission meeting to order. We have a quorum with 6 members. Jackie has approval from the chair for remote participation for medical reasons. Jackie, can you tell us for the record where you're participating from?
From my kitchen.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. You can remain off camera unless you want to, unless we need to vote or anything like that. If
All
you
right, thank you. If you need to see my face, let me know.
do.
Remiss your mountain backdrop.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any public comment? We actually have 2 members of the public with us tonight, which is great. Adoption of the minutes. We sent around the draft minutes for the last 3 meetings. Has everyone had a chance? Any edits that anyone had on them?
Those are AI generated, right?
And
With some minor light editing from Ms.
Oh, okay. Yes, they were very good.
It does a good job,
Yeah.
but I have to go back and capture names just so everybody's aware, because we join this as one entity. Whenever we do votes, motions and seconds, I have to go back and sort of listen and make sure I'm capturing. names.
Yeah. We don't have too many split votes. Yeah. So.
Microsoft needs to add diaration to their transcript service. Any motions to adopt the minutes?
Move that we adopt the minutes.
Right.
All 3.
Frank Jazzo moves to adopt the minutes.
Yeah.
Second.
I second.
Andrea seconds. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Jackie, you have to come on to vote on the screen to vote. Sorry.
I need to come on the screen to vote.
Yeah, we need to see your face.
Okay,
Jackie. The minutes are adopted unanimously. Great. Chair's update. Major update that we have this month is that the county's Long Range Planning Commission is taking the Arlington 2050 project to the next phase, which includes the statutorily required updates to the comprehensive plan every 5 years, and is initiating planning discussions and has invited participants from all of the advisory commissions to participate. As our vice chair and hopefully incoming chair, Mike will take the primary role in that, and I will be his alternate. But as that process progresses, I would encourage everyone to try and follow along, and we can have conversations here that inform our input or feedback to that process. Welcome, Mr. Smith. Lou. So that is the big update. I think, discussing with Mike, our approach is essentially to take the planning principles that we have already adopted and sent to the board as our policy recommendations, as our primary input into that planning process, and try and find ways for them to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan update. So, Mike, do you want to add anything to that?
I will, after each time there's a meeting, I will come in and we can have a discussion.
Great. Questions on Jackie?
yes. Does this mean, and will we specifically include our request that a master plan or some version be added to the elements of the strategic plan? That's been in our recommendations. I'm not sure it's in the document you're referring to.
My recollection is that it was included.
Okay.
It was not like 100%. You have to do all these things, but we think you should. They definitely, by state law, in our read of state law, need to include for the provision of broadband services, because that's explicitly called out in the section of state law regarding comprehensive plans. But so
it could be strategic digital. I can't remember what we called it, but it was like a digital strategic plan.
We can send around that document again so that we can all refer ourselves as to what the recommendations.
I think getting that in the list they may say that's not part of what they're doing right now, but if their first phase is looking at the introduction to the plan.
Well, that's great.
And I think at additions to the 12 elements should be part of that initial discussion, because otherwise they're then not part of the, in depth as they go into things.
Yeah, we will push that point at all appropriate junctures.
We have one more meeting before the first meeting of,
And what format is this going to be in? Are the reps from all the commissions going to be in a focus group or what?
It was part of the comprehensive, the long range planning advisory committee as part of the planning commission. So it was going to be an expanded invite list to that meeting. So it'll be.
Can you circulate whatever
Yes.
invitation you got, please?
Yes.
I'm very interested because they did send that out, to the public today. And they are doing focus groups with underrepresented populations, but it's not clear who else they're engaging. And
Yeah.
so the fact that they're engaging the commissions is good. I just want to know, it seems like they're using different vehicles for engaging different populations.
Yeah, and I think the invite indicated that they'd launched a web page about the project, but it is connected to the initial engagement from last year about the Arlington 2050 vision. So there was a lot of engagement for that.
Yeah, I've thoroughly, I'm very interested. I've been working on this engagement issue on this topic for months.
Okay.
And I have thoroughly scrubbed the website already. And what I'm saying is, from some other organizations, I've received copies of their invitations. So as an example, a Latino organization I know got a special invitation saying, we'd like you to contribute 3 people because we're going to do a focus group for underrepresented Latinos. And it's going to be a focus group targeting that population. Nowhere does it say how representatives from commissions would be, specifically. And the Civic Federation has not received any invitations for participation, which is, of course, what my particular concern is.
Got it. Okay, well, we will circulate the invitation and the publicly available material that has already been provided to us.
Thank you. That's what I'd like to see.
Any other questions on that updated planning activity? I don't know about you guys, but I think in 2050, information technology is going to be a thing. Maybe.
And it was not discussed at the big
not.
meeting.
Not.
I threw some stuff.
I appreciate that, Fred. All right. Now for the main agenda item for tonight, Ms. Connie Utoff is here to discuss. Mike, do you want to introduce her?
sure. I'm very pleased that Connie has agreed to join us and share her wisdom and expertise in cyber intelligence and cybersecurity. She has directed the cybersecurity program at the George Washington University for the last 13 years and is the author of Cyber Intelligence, Actors, Policies, and Practices. I have briefed her on characteristics of the county and our role regarding the county board. I had asked her to think as far forward as 2030. Maybe I should have said 2050, but that's where we are. And Connie is very open to a free-flowing discussion as we proceed.
Great. Thank you, Connie. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. And it always gives me an opportunity to engage with Mike again, which is nice. I haven't seen him. It's lovely to see. But just absolutely wonderful to be here too. The way I'm going to do this, I understand I have 30 minutes to talk, but so I'm going to highlight some, and again, this is to be free flowing if anybody wants to jump in, but I kind of kept myself strictly to 30 minutes here. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are, we mentioned drones, but also robotics and AI in the future, but also what that has to do with cybersecurity. because whenever there's evolution or opportunities in this space, there are also threat actors, malicious nation states. Everybody is going to look for the vulnerabilities and how can I use this to leverage it for my purpose. So businesses want to use it for, their economic development, or, then also malicious actors, especially the key China, Russia, Iran, and are the key ones that are we worry about here in the United States. So first, I'm going to just jump in here and start talking about the drone program here, and it will tie back to some of the concerns that I found. So, and again, jump in at any time. This is going to be open free. So Arlington County, Virginia recently launched their drone program, and this is for emergency services. So they showcase their commitment to innovation and forward thinking already. This service illustrates interagency capability between the Arlington County Fire Department, the Police Department, and the Department of Public Safety, Communications, and Emergency Management. Keep that just in the back of your mind later. So this is just one piece of broader opportunity that is here in Arlington. As this compact jurisdiction that you have a high-tech workforce, lots of PhDs here, and you have an engaged civic society. It's uniquely positioned here where you are to explore how emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, robotics, and the smart infrastructure, are already transforming public service delivery and operational results. There's a lot of people here. I think, don't you win awards year after year for your digital technology award or something like that in county? Yeah, and I was really impressed. I'm like, so that's already here. And just take a look at where you're situated. All the great companies and all the, the Pentagon, DARPA, everybody's here. But also not just here, but globally, local governments are also using drones and robots in diverse ways. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different ways that drones and robotics are used. You probably already know this because this is such a forward-leaning technology center, or county here anyway. But, and so if you've heard any of these, I apologize for being redundant. But these are some other models that counties like yours can consider. In Chula Vista, California, have you heard of the Drone First Responder program? They completed more than 20,000 flights already, supporting 911 response and improving officer safety. Obviously, there's some privacy concerns around there too, as well. But for example, there was a gentleman out running around with looked like a gun in his hand. And so people were concerned, they called in, they sent the drone out. And when they realized the drone got there before the police did, and the drone captured that it was actually a lighter. And I don't advise anybody to take a lighter that looks like a gun and wave it around, but the drone caught it. So that avoided some really, what could be a really disastrous situation where somebody could have ended up dead or hurt or something like that. So then there's also in Palm Springs, California, they started out with their emergency response drone program. They had a small, modest program. Now they have 15 drone fleet, and it supports search and rescue operations. And you can send drones out in swarms and things like that. So it works really well to be part of their search and rescue operations. Also, drones are supporting disaster relief and infrastructure resilience across the world. The UK uses drones for crowd control, rural search operations. Australia deploys them to monitor bushfires, assess structural damage. Drones can offer real-time surveillance of waste accumulation. So that's another thing for illegal dumping. They can use aerial site surveys for recycling facilities. You can collect lightweight debris and use robotic arms or nets. They also support overhead traffic analysis and emergency routing optimization. So these are some things that countries and even cities within the United States and the states are already utilizing, and maybe might be something that they adopt here more of, since there's a drone program here. But then there's also robotic technology. Everybody heard of Elon Musk, this guy? Pretty popular right now. He's investing in robotics. China is heavily investing in robotics to the point where they want it to be disruptive. This is going to be something that people are really looking at. Didn't you say you were from Amazon? So you know all about robotics. They have robots there. Because a robotic technology was first introduced into the U.S. commercial environment into the late 1950s. It was initially used in industry, placed in physically segregated areas, in cages, isolated from humans. But now robots can be found working in various sectors like manufacturing or in Amazon, medicine, military, underwater organ exploration, outer space missions, retail and hospitality. They're lighter, more flexible. Did anybody see the Chinese drones? Robots doing the marathon?
I did see that.
Did you see that? So that's they have Chinese robots doing a marathon. Some of them fell and smoked up. But, yeah, but
There's one that finished, and
That's
then the
right.
other one was like going around in circles and stuff.
Really?
It's not quite what you wanted to. Have you seen Boston Dynamics robots? Oh, some of them are creepy now what they can do, but they can dance. And they're amazing. The amount of robot dogs they use for in between Ukraine and Russia, they've already started using some of these robots in the military engagement to be able to test it out. Because if you have a war, if you have a battlefield, what a great place to test out technology. And that's what they've been doing. It's like one of the most technologically advanced wars ever. So this new generation of robots, you have Ocean One, who looks and acts like a human diver, or Atlas is a robot that does backflips and dances with humans. There's an electric version of Atlas that's more suitable for commercial environments, was demonstrated in the 2024 by Boston Dynamics. So there's a whole bunch of names of different robots. I'm not going to name them all, but they can be news anchors, bartenders, tourist guides. I think Elon Musk did this. Didn't he have a bartender at one of the conferences or something like that? It was a robot bartender. There's Pepper, Neo, and Relay that are frontline service workers. Japan had this whole hotel, the Hotel Hena, I think it was called, that was all robots. And it didn't, they ended up firing some of the robots because there were things that went wrong. Sorry, robots. But they did try that as an experiment. But so these advances in robotic technology have made it possible to start integrating them into communities. And if anybody has anybody been to Denny's lately? Did you see the Denny's service robot? Oh no, they have them in Alexandria, Fairfax, Manassas. They've even gotten bigger ones. They start out with small ones during COVID because it was no touch, so they had these little robots come out and you take your food off of it, or it says, but now they have bigger ones. One of the Denny's has two of them. So
I've been served by a Denny's robot.
thank you. I was like, everybody's looking at me like, yes, yeah, they don't really look like robots.
And they do what? They remove your plates and.
They don't, you have to remove your plate or the server has to remove your plate.
Okay,
So it doesn't
what does
walk.
the robot do?
It delivers the food.
Mhm.
And so at least for the servers, from what I understand, they feel like I don't have to carry it. Some of the other servers are like, I want to carry my own food. I want to tip. But people still tip them. It'll sing happy birthday to the kids, which is another famous, but so they tried them in some robots. And if you start taking a look, McDonald's is going more automated. All these fast food restaurants are becoming more automated. McDonald's wants to have their own, I think they've already done it, completely non-person technology service. But then, then everything's on the customer. You put your own order in, you pick your own food up, that type of thing. So it's some fast food restaurants anyways are definitely moving that way. Has anybody been to the airport where you walk in and you can buy your own food and walk out? You don't have to, there's no one that's contactless, just do it yourself. So those are things that are slowly starting to show up. And they expect to do a lot more. There's supposed to be a lot more investment in service. I didn't bring the stats, but the investments that are going to be in industrial robots and in service robots is increasing exponentially in the next 5 years. So in South Korea, they have multilingual robots in libraries and city halls to help out with administrative tasks. Pleasanton, California had a sidewalk robot delivery grocery, a little robot delivering groceries. There's mixed feelings about the robot delivery robot, but it's something that they're doing. Las Vegas right now, if you want to look at technological innovation, go to Las Vegas and give them some of your money to lawyer. But they're testing automated, autonomous shuttles in their downtown core. They also have other things that I'll talk about later. Also, look up Toyota's Woven City. If you want to look at, it's a living library. Has anybody heard of it yet? Okay. They just started breaking ground, or they just started launching this. It's going to be a living library for AI, clean energy, robotics, and mobility integration. And it's going to be kind of a laboratory or a test case, and only researchers and employees are going to be able to live there for now.
So just to
gonna be
connect the
interesting.
dots,
Mhm.
the more you use robots, the greater the cyber risk.
Oh, that'll get there. I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting
I
there.
don't mean to go ahead then. I
Okay,
will-
no,
I
we're
will-
gonna
I
get
will
there. I'm just
retreat.
gonna tell, do you want me to jump ahead to scary stuff? Because I can do
Oh,
that.
this is interesting.
These are just different innovations. So that the point for that was to add more conversation around innovation around the world and the things that people are looking at around the world. And so while drones and robots are being integrated into local communities, the broader potential for smart city innovation. I don't know how much of a smart city we are here, how much of a smart county.
I mean, I think there are some aspects of it, and so we've tried some different.
Okay,
I think there's a parking sensor pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Very successful.
okay,
We've tried some sensors on mics that have been maybe less successful.
okay.
But it's helped us explore some different things, and I know they're constantly looking in the area down in Crystal City and Mountain Community.
Definitely.
How do we utilize, the infrastructure that's down there and the partnerships
Oh, that's great.
related to like the mobility and
Definitely. Those are-
transportation, not transportation.
Mhm. No, I think those would be good areas to also expand in. Have you heard of a city scale digital twin? This could be something. Las Vegas has something called a digital twin. It's a data driven virtual replica of their physical location. So you can have your own kind of like virtual version of your city or your county. And for that, you can then allow planners. So if you're planning for future for 2050, have your virtual city, and you use your virtual city to be able to kind of modify it and do things like, okay, so it's for planners like you guys, emergency managers, infrastructure teams, and you can take a look at even experiment with like traffic flow, or what if we put this here? We can assess zoning or model climate impact. So there's all sorts of really interesting things. There are cities like Las Vegas has one. So if you want to take a look at like a case study, Singapore and Dublin are also using these models to visualize urban growth. So it's a neat thing that if you're thinking by 2050, I bet that'll probably be something that's already. Smart water systems, modernization of civic identity like they have in Estonia. It's an e-citizenship model. So they all like have digital identity systems that can streamline access to all sorts of things like government services, human licenses. That's a good case study to look at. Transportation, they have the AI powered traffic systems that could, so again, this is another place, Las Vegas has also used this. They have AI enhanced cameras to be able to detect how, the driving patterns of people. And they were having a lot of accidents, like wrong way. People were going down this road the wrong way. And so they actually use these cameras and drones to be able to capture information, and they figured out how to lower congestion and accident response times. So there's a lot of different things that people are doing around the country to be able to really capture and for that smart city or that digital twin city, they use drones and captured and this is the other thing if you're thinking about privacy or you're thinking about the other side of the thing, all the amount of data that you have to capture. There's a lot of data, and then who's storing it and what's happening with it. Those are other types of things to consider. There's also health-centric urban planning. London has air quality sensors that they deploy around schools or high-density areas. And what it does is it informs them about public investment decisions aimed at like health outcomes or about the air quality, air pollution. There's sensors that can monitor noise. And then there's the IoT, the Internet of Things enabled parks that are also in Las Vegas. And these are Las Vegas's, they have an award-winning smart park protocol project. I'm not getting money from Las Vegas for this. They just have a lot going on. But they have AI cameras in their parks, smart lighting, and real-time analytics to improve safety, prevent vandalism, and to track public usage patterns. So it's something that if you wanted to do that here in Arlington, it would be great. If you have public parks and you really want to keep it safe, this would be another way to utilize technology to be able to, have those lights come on during certain times, but also, and to track public patterns or to use AI cameras and things like that. And finally, given Arlington's flood, sometimes there's, I think there's flooding here sometimes. Near the, little bit near 4 mile run.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, I was a rumor, maybe it's, but anyway, there's climate resilient analytics. So you can use that here. New York has a flood net piece and they use water sensors to tell real-time flood detection. So all of these great, things. AI can also help with, again, traffic flow analysis, healthcare, infrastructure monitoring, and cyber attack prevention. This is the segue into cyber.
Got the segue.
Okay, got the segue. So, so speaking of cyber attacks, let's take a look at, I have 3 priority things that came up to me. The 3 things that just kind of caught my attention, and then I'll talk about some of the other things that have to do with general cybersecurity. And also findings from the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the ITAC, confirm that there's threats to the critical infrastructure, escalating ransomware campaigns, and foreign actor activity. They're not just national problems, they're local problems too. They're really local problems. I mean, Frederick, Maryland they got a ransomware attack. I think Baltimore did a while ago. Yeah. Oh, hospitals do. I mean, you pick up the paper, the amount of ransomware attacks that have gone up since 2018 have been overwhelming, and they're not going to go. And they have double extortion now too. That's another conversation. But one of the things I noticed when I started talking about drones, and when I was looking at the drone program here, I sit down and look at it, and I was like, oh, what kind of drones do you have here? So the drones that are listed on the website include something called, I don't know how the company is called, if it's DJI Avata or if it's DigiAvata, the Mavic, they have the Mavic 3 and the Matrix 30, which is listed on the website. These are widely used across the United States and across the world, but they're created, they're German, they're manufactured by Chinese companies. So if anybody's been listening about TikTok, or supply chain, or Volt Typhoon, or Salt Typhoon, or where China's been. If anybody's listening who knows who Mandiant is, and back in 2000, if you look at the Mandiant APT1 report, I think it came out in either 2013 or 2011, I don't always remember, came out huge disclosure about exactly how China has been infiltrating our systems and stealing our intellectual property. And before that, it was Google. Google was the one that came out and said, hey, China's been hacking us. And so this has been going on for a long time. This is not anything new. So right now we have these technological, the company that owns or that manufactures these drones made in China or is Chinese. It's Chinese. And so what does that mean? That means that China, they have a Chinese law. So companies like the DJI can be compelled to share user data about to the Chinese government. These drones collect and transmit video, location data, and it creates a risk that the foreign actors can access sensitive information about Arlington's emergency response infrastructure. So that's something that's kind of concerned. The company itself says, no, we don't do that. We know we're not turning this information over to the Chinese government. But if you have, I mean, that's what the whole TikTok issue is. Senator Warner here in Virginia has been lobbying all last year about we got to get rid of TikTok because it is a national security concern, because it allows Chinese threat actors a backdoor to all these U.S. citizens. And so here's a potential supply chain risk that just people should be aware of. And if you're part of Arlington, you might want to be like, well, maybe we should just look at it or just consider it, or at least have a conversation about, because some people say, no, this should be fine. Florida, Arkansas, and Mississippi have already banned these products in public agencies. And some states have begun transitioning to the National Defense Authorization Act compliant US manufactured alternatives, and those are secure by design. So it could be something that maybe at some point, if you're thinking about, and this is a case study, the reason I selected this is because if you're thinking about what are we going to be in 2050? What kind of technology are we going to invest in? And are we going to make sure before we get there that we start thinking about security in mind? So we're going there. We want to have all this great innovation. We have smart cities. We want to have, life to be so much easier, but we need to really consider, is this secure? So and also about the drones, I got kind of excited about them. The ongoing war in Ukraine. So I pay lots of attention to it because there's so much technological stuff. The drones, this ongoing war in Ukraine is also related to drones because these same types of drones have been used both by the Ukrainians and the Russians. And first and why does that matter here? So it just happened recently. So both sides have actively developed and deployed cyber capabilities to disable, to spoof, and hijack enemy drones because it's war. So they're using these drones during war. So they're each taking turns trying to hijack each other's drones. In April 2025, Ukraine's main intelligence directive initiated a cyber attack that disabled Russian drone identification systems, specifically the server managing the friend or foe recognition software. So that means the drone can't then recognize who's a friend and who's a foe. And if it has strike capability, then that can be a problem. As a result, the military lost remote access to numerous drones, rendering them useless or forcing their operators to rely on visual guidance alone. It targeted the software backbone of the Russian UAS networks rather than the drones themselves. So that demonstrates how control systems and data links, not just physical hardware, are critical vulnerabilities in drone warfare. So why am I telling you this story? Why does it matter that someplace way far away, they are using, this company told Russia they can't use their drones. Russia still is getting the drones. Somebody else is sending them to. Same company. Some of them are the same model as the ones here in Arlington. Why does that matter? Who cares? That's there. Why would that even matter? Am I the only one who thinks this way?
No, it being it matters.
Exactly. Yeah. If they can get, I was like, maybe I'm just really that dark mind. No. So yeah, if they can do it there, they can do it here. And it already shows a vulnerability. So there's two potential vulnerabilities. There's already, it could have another, nation states are constantly building, trying to put things in the supply chain of another country. That's what spies do. When they were building the US embassy in Russia, ever look it up or go to the spy museum, the Russians just were putting bugs everywhere, everything. There was like a hole inside the whole wall. There was some equipment so they could listen in on, what was going on in the embassy. That's kind of what the idea is. So you already have something that could potentially either by the law in China, perhaps China decides we want to have access to it. We might not have access to it now. We want access to it, and you have to give it to us because we are our law. China has already been deep within our infrastructure recently. They've already stolen a bunch of our intellectual property. Look at what Director Wray, before he left, look what he had to say about China. Look on CISA, the Department of Homeland Security. Look at what Jen Easterly said about, look, she's on LinkedIn every day now talking about, well, pay attention to the Chinese, pay attention to the Chinese. It's a big thing, it's huge. They're not messing around. So they want to be the dominant nation state. And so these are some ways to do it. And you kind of want to know what's going on. So, and Russian forces, so the Russians and the Ukrainians, the different things they were doing is the Russian forces used radio frequency jamming, signal spoofing to disrupt or capture Ukrainian drones. They had custom built systems and software exploits to take over and neutralize Russian quadcopters and larger surveillance UAVs. They also had a thing where you could track with this specific type of drone that they use here. You can track and be able to figure out where the drone. So you might have somebody controlling a drone here, and if a bad actor wanted to, they could figure out where the location was of the person who was operating, which then that makes.
To counter frequency jamming, they're now using fiber optics connected, which is, I mean, basically it's like a fishing line going out with, and it's just wild that, they're controlling, so they don't need to.
So they don't need to use it, right, exactly. So and that's exactly what it is. Then everybody's kind of trying to, but once you have other people in the world who have already experienced trying to figure out how to backdoor these. And so that's what happens in Morrison. So that's one of the. So the consequences of that, in a local context like Arlington, could be severe. Like a hacked drone can be grounded or repurposed during emergency response operations such as search and rescue or chemical spill, or a drone compromised by a foreign intelligence actor could be used to surveil police or emergency response tactics or gather information on sensitive sites or interfere with communications and mobility planning during a crisis. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And the idea is if you're a nation state and you want to have an advantage, and you want to have an advantage in this particularly strategic area that you are in, such a strategic area, I would be interested, especially if this is considered the digital award that they get. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd be very interested if I was somebody who wanted to be able to pay attention. If I saw that, I'd want to know everything about it. Capacity of Arlington, because you won awards there, like the best county. Let's find out what you guys do, what's going on. So that's one thing that I just thought of. Another thing, I saw a report in 2025 report that came out in January, and these researchers offer a national data-driven view of how exposed county governments are to cyber threats. So they took a look at county governments all over the United States. And they found that counties with more than 2,000 IP addresses, like digitally connected counties, experience a steep increase in cybersecurity risk. Not only that, Virginia ranked among one of the most exposed states, with the vast majority of its counties vulnerable to DNS misconfiguration, illicit database access, and insecure remote authorization. That's from an outside perspective. So they took this to everybody know what Shodan is. You can go and find out all the open reports and things like that. You can do assessments. So they had a way of going and taking a look to see where all the vulnerabilities were in all these counties. But that doesn't mean that they're, the counties aren't also using multi-factor authentication or doing things to kind of slow down the criminal actors. But in these three areas, those are three things that they found that showed up in Virginia. So they didn't in the report, they didn't narrow it down to any counties. They wanted to try to they just narrowed it down by state. So that was one of the things. So if your DNS is misconfigured, you can have people going to fake malicious websites without knowing. You can allow attackers to intercept or redirect traffic. You can make legitimate websites inaccessible or disrupt services like maybe the voter registration or something like that. If you have illicit database access and it's not protected, then that's when hackers can steal it and get sensitive data or change or delete records or do something like that. And if you want a copy of this, if anybody's really that, I geek out on things like that. But also the insecure remote authorizations. That's like if people are working your remote authorization, and if your remote authorization is how you're logging into a government system from outside, or you're checking your email or something like that, if the login process is weak, if there's something wrong with that, and you're only relying on like it's just the password, a lot of places now have multi-factor authentication. So, but if you don't have additional protections, the attackers can maybe use a password cracker to break in or launch a ransomware attack, move laterally through the system or something like that. So that was the other thing that I saw. And this is a most common way that criminals can get in, especially like when employees are working remotely. So it's something to really pay attention to. And then thirdly, this isn't necessarily a cyber hacking thing. But there was another executive, go figure, in March, and it's called Enhancing Efficiency Through State and Local Preparedness. So what happens is, in context to cybersecurity preparation and also weather or other crises like that, President Trump signed an executive order to empower states, localities, and citizens to more effectively prepare for incidents like cyber attacks and weather events. So it reshapes the national framework. So all these things that were national are now being pushed down to the state and local level. And so that's going to be a little bit differently because it delegates greater responsibility for cybersecurity for state and local governments.
Does that make any sense?
I don't think it does, but I mean, what happens is then the state and local, they don't have as many resources.
Right, right. You want to recreate the wheel out of national.
Well, I think what he's trying to do, or what the executive order, I believe, is trying to do is then sort of empower on state and local levels to have more resilience and start to take more responsibility for their cybersecurity and for their, and for anything that goes, or whether like a hurricane or something like that. So that on that level, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because now it puts, it's like, okay, this is no longer a federal obligation. Now it's then rolled down. So in addition to these priorities, they talk about, they just said it's no longer a federal issue, but there are, I encourage you, I didn't read through the whole entire executive order, though there are mandates for CISA to start working with the state and local governments, but also more than, they have been, but again, though they just cut, a whole bunch of people from the cybersecurity program agency at DHS already. So it'll be interesting to have a new leader there, new director, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. So that's one of the things that came out, but again, that's something that will impact. So if you're thinking about innovation and growth, and then you're also thinking about, okay, we should build growth in mind with security in mind when we're building out. And then you also have to think about how you're going to do that, because now it seems like you're going to have more resources or have more partnerships to be able to do that. Other emerging concerns that demand attention, I guess. There's also other involving threats, ransomware, and operational disruptions. There was the 2025 Frederick County Public Schools just recently were hit by a ransomware attack. The Virginia Attorney General's office was also hit by a cyber attack just this year. Exposed some sensitive data. There are also water systems have been hacked. Russia hacked a water system in Texas last year. Iran went after a water system the year before. You name the area of critical infrastructure, and there has been somebody trying to get into it. They're nonstop being attacked. So just other ideas to keep that in mind. There's also with AI, there'll be AI enabled attacks and disinformation.
On the critical infrastructure system,
Yes.
It's always seemed odd to me that we would ever connect a water system to the internet in the first place.
Well, you would think.
Like, it seems just like, why would you do that?
So now you're talking about, so why would you have a smart city? So when you start thinking about connecting to the internet, they have smart offices, they have smart homes.
I don't really care if the sensor telling me whether or not the parking space is open gets hacked, right?
Okay.
And there's a level of criticality to
Oh,
the
definitely.
impact that you have to do in your risk assessment. Why would you ever put something as critical as water and sewage, which is more important to public health than all the doctors, on the internet?
Oh, because somebody thought, I didn't do it, but I agree. So I think,
Okay, good.
so I think what happened was when people start thinking of innovation and they start thinking, okay, let's hook up the electric grid to,
Yeah.
the internet.
Right.
Let's hook up the waters and the dams so we can do things remotely. It makes it easier. But we're sort of kind of talking about the Internet of Things and how, if you're going to develop within by 2050, some of these things are going to be connected. Everything may or maybe not. Maybe you'll do it without being connected. But just to let you know, you can be air gapped and still be hacked.
Well,
You can have a nuclear facility in the middle of Iran And allegedly, does everybody know the story? It can be
Yes.
hacked. So, and they can turn up they can.
The Stuxnet virus.
Suck,
But,
yes.
but the resources needed to do that are extremely higher, which means that you're taking off the table these targets from threat actors who are not sufficiently resourced or capable or motivated, right?
Right. Well,
So
there's
if
the-
any old, transnational gang can put a Frederick, Maryland school system on ransomware, right? That's profit for them, but they're not gonna necessarily they're in it for the economics. So it changes.
Depends on the, well, right, so that's exactly, you want to take a look at what's the motivation behind the threat actor. So if the motivation behind the threat actor is I want your money, they're gonna go after something like, oh, maybe a hospital, maybe a school, maybe, something where I know that you're gonna pay me out. Because if you don't, something's gonna happen. And maybe even if you pay me out, I'm still gonna hold on to some data and then I'll extort you again. So there's things like that. You're absolutely right. We're also in a place right now where we're in an area of what's called persistent engagement. So persistent engagement means there is constantly cyber activity going on. It's on a nation state level, nonstop. There's also criminal organizations that are so phenomenally, their level of expertise. I mean, they're out there helping Russia during the Ukraine war, where things are happening, where they're attacking critical infrastructure at the same time. They're launching a kinetic attack at the same time that the criminal organization is hacking into areas of the United States and other NATO places. So these things have been tried out. And yeah, I agree with you that the people who might want to impact our water probably are not, like you said, those ransomware groups.
Yeah.
It's probably Iran likes to go after water, and maybe they're not sophisticated enough, but China is definitely getting more sophisticated than they used to be, and Russia is a highly sophisticated actor. And in terms of motivation, it depends, like what's going on. And people often will do things to signal, like, I'm not going to do it bad enough to be able to poison your water supply, but maybe in Texas, I'll get in there and show you how vulnerable these legacy systems are so that you back off someplace else. You want to have some negotiations about Ukraine? Well, then you better make sure everything's taken care of here. Right after the Ukraine war broke out, there was something that DHS launched called Operation Shields Up. And that was for every single business here in the United States. They said, get your shields up. They're Star Trek, it's shields up. And because, I know this wholly geeky, but because everybody here can be a hero. Like the minute we start supporting Ukraine, Russia we could potentially be a target, and it's civilian targets, and it's financial, it's, your water supply, it's all that stuff. So exactly right.
Why did the Trump administration back off on Russian cybersecurity?
That's curious.
Isn't it?
Mhm.
No
It could be.
tariffs either.
Yeah, it could be though. We also have a mind bending, what is it? Weapons that bend space and time. You hear about that quote? Oh, just recently they said, oh yeah, the President Trump and somebody else said, yeah, people better watch out because we have in the United States weapons that can bend space and time. It's like you're here and then you're there. And it was like, oh, I want to know more about that. So that could be another thing.
Wormholes?
That's what people are like, are we able to do,
Of course, he says a lot of things.
He does say a lot of things, but he was not the one who said it. It was the other person who said it that had to do with national security. I can't remember who that was. He gave a presentation about it. Yeah, but I think it was Hegatass, and he told us why. Yeah, all about it.
They're eating the dogs too.
Yeah, and the cats. And the
Let's keep it
cats.
focused on cyber.
It was to the point though.
But yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so they, I completely lost my train of thought after the dogs and the cats. But what was it that he said?
The Russians are coming after us, man. I mean, I just can't imagine why we're letting our.
I don't ever believe, like, when we had Stuxnet, we had Iran, we had so much equipment in there that we were controlling their centrifuges, slowing them down, speeding them up, ACDC classic, and to do all that. And the whole time Obama was being like, oh, let's, I think the president of Iran came over and was on the Today Show. And I'm like, this is craziness, but it's because we already had. So sometimes you might signal one way, but it's because we've got you. We have you and we know it. So we're going to act this way. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know what might be going on. I'm curious about why they would pull off, but I don't think, the only other thing I can think of, if they pulled one group off, it might be because another group is saying we need access. Because when you can also have too many people in the same contested space. If you're all on the same side, in the United States, you're really good at telling, organizing who goes where. We know who's where, the Department of Defense, NSA, who's where and all that kind of stuff. So that could be part of it. Maybe there's a group that was going to be supposed to go in. Maybe we already have something that we aren't talking about. And so we pretend to pull off in one area to make it look nice, and then but really we have something else. Because I can't imagine we would just not.
I think there were reports that we are upping the offensive cyber.
Oh, totally.
And signaling, again, trying to get them to back up because
Right.
they've been all out.
Oh, they've been on, right. But yeah, when Trump first got into office the last time, he actually authorized a law that would make it easier for Department of Defense and cyberspace to be able to act offensive. I mean, to go on the offensive without having to go get authorization first. So they got rid of the authorization part of it. So you have to, I'm going to do this. Can I do it? Can I do it? They're just go ahead.
So I'd like to focus this back on.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
County.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
So-
I don't think we're going to advocate that Arlington County
Right.
develop offensive cyber
Oh, absolutely.
capabilities,
not.
right?
No.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay,
That would get attention.
Okay, good. Let's not. Let's not.
But you can get cybersecurity groups here to help support you as you're building out your new infrastructure. Because really, what you want to have is safe and secure. And so you want things built in design. And I'm sorry that I went off the rail. This is
No, it's okay.
exactly why I try to do this. So I don't. So yeah, so as you're building out, consider embracing a risks-based cybersecurity strategy or approach. So that will prioritize what's critical, because you can't do everything all the time. You allocate your resources strategically. So all of this is about a strategy moving forward. Where do we want to be in 2050? How do we work back from that? This is what it looks like. We're moving back from that stage here. We're going to be here this stage. And how along the way are we building security? And who are we bringing along with us? And what does that look like? Because we want to be secure and we want our, our partners to be secure. And that's how you attract more business. You attract more business because you say, we are a secure environment. We're a secure county. We're the best county. We're the best digital county now. And in 2050, we're going to be the best then. So the way you do it is you start there, work backwards and start thinking about what do we need to invest in and what kind of infrastructure do we want to have? And then how do we then, build the security in? And that has, think about what matters most. Recognize that not all systems, like you nailed it, you jumped ahead. I was like, you're getting to the end. Not all systems are equally important. So you want to pay attention to that. What's mission to this county? Optimize protection where it matters most. So where's your crown jewels? What do we need to protect the most? Do we need to even have it, like you said, online? Do we need to have the things that are really important to us online, and how does that look? And if this is a digitally connected community, how is that going to look? And what does cyber hygiene look like? And so instead of trying to secure everything on the same level, think about what's critical, what threat likelihood, and the impact of compromise. And then think about building it in terms of maturity. So it's maturity over time, because things are going to change, and things are going to change fast in the next 5. I don't even know what the world is going to look like by 2050. Remember when Twitter first came out? No one ever thought that Arab Spring would have happened within 5 years, and that leaders of governments fell. Gaddafi got killed and dragged to the street and things like that. Part of that had to do with the way that social media and those platforms were then being used, instead of being like Harvard and Raw and Facebook and sharing things like that. Now it all of a sudden within 5 years, it became a whole different thing. Likes, algorithms to mess with you psychologically, to get you addicted to your dopamine in your brain is addicted to your like, and your all the feeds that you're getting and all that attention, all of that, and the timelines, all of it is very purposely constructed to where we are today. And that also has to do with disinformation. And I'm going on. track. So
Back for that.
some key recommendations for Arlington County, maybe establish a county office of cybersecurity as you're moving forward. Arizona and Arkansas and New Mexico have done things like that to centralize cybersecurity. They implement mandatory cyber hygiene standards as people come as part of the business. If you're doing business with us, we would like, you have to follow these things.
You know, who does it now for Arlington, who's in charge of cybersecurity?
DTS.
Yeah.
So you-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a-
And you have a,
Yeah. Oh, they have.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
and you have a CISO.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so what I'll say for Holly, because we don't talk about operational
Right,
details
yes.
here,
Yeah.
is that in the budget presentation for DTS, one of the performance measures is the CISA self-assessment on which Arlington scores in the good, but we still would like to get it a little bit higher. So we're like above the minimum threshold recommended. We're not quite at the target, and that was, my recollection was better than last year. Is that right? Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
like
moving.
an organization where you change the structure, how does that help us the actual outcomes? You're suggesting that we create an office.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that other places have created an office. So if you don't have one and you think that might be something that could be helpful, if you already feel like what your office is doing, or you build it out, or it's sufficient enough, you already have. So if you didn't, then it would be, so like some places that say, these are different recommendations if you didn't already have it. You've
Plug
got-
from the internet.
No, we should not unplug from the internet. So you mentioned Arizona. We had previously recommended at the state level for our legislative agenda, the creation of kind of a risk program for cloud service adoption, like the federal FedRAMP program. Arizona, when I last looked, had created a program, but it didn't look like a state ramp program, but it didn't look like anybody else had joined. Do you have any insight into that program and its
I
effectiveness?
don't know. Can't speak to that. I could get some information about that. Have some people out there. No, that's interesting. But I can send you anything.
Great, thank you.
But then just, yeah, there's some other just, oh, you probably thought of quantum. Quantum, yeah. Or, yeah, yeah.
Last year, this presentation, we discussed quantum
Okay.
a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
but please, go ahead.
Oh, no, just that that's something that it's gonna be pretty soon. I mean, that already quantum computers and they can break encryption and all the fun stuff. And then everything that, all your financial data, everything that's encrypted is no longer encrypted. And so NIST has put out 3 different, I guess, laws, and NSA has got some information about how you can start working towards becoming quantum resistant computing. It's a lot
So
of
they
work.
suck up all the data, so if it's broken later, they can.
Yeah, steal it and then, yeah,
Or they're doing that against county and state.
they do it everywhere. If I was a nation state right now, I would be sucking up everything, especially if I was China. I'm so heavily investing in quantum. I would suck up everything, whether it's encrypted or not, because I know one day I'm going to decrypt it and I'll be able to use that information with all the other things I've taken.
Storage is super cheap.
And storage is cheap. And then when you're putting together like
Petabytes, gigabytes.
information about people in towns and communities, you know, put it up together, make these virtual town, you can make these virtual cities. Then I also have all the data about everybody who, all their health records and all their medical records and all their OPM security information.
It sounds familiar.
Start to put that all together and start to make profiles about how and do scenario planning and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that whole idea, there's a lot in that position right now. We're like, let's get as what we can now and do. So yeah, so happy thoughts.
I'm gonna go live in a cave.
Yeah, I would live in cave. No, but there's a lot. The thing is, this is a great county, a great country in terms of being able to be resilient and forward thinking. Develop local cyber talent pipelines, you know, all the things, embed cybersecurity and procurement and planning. So when you're thinking of planning and procurement, embed cybersecurity into it. Launch public engagement and transparency initiatives, invest in quantum encryption, enhance AI threat detection, strengthen supply chain security, all those things. But you really have to start out with that risk-based planning in mind. And it's a lot. I mean, if you're planning out the future, you know, it's really a lot on top of all of that to consider.
Any final questions for Connie?
Can you send me, you said you can send us the report?
Oh, yeah, I can send you.
Yeah.
Yeah, these two, we'll follow up and get.
The report in Arizona.
Any other questions?
Brief, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jerry, Jackie?
You didn't mention Waymo under the robotics.
No, I didn't. There were so many that I
I
didn't.
know, sorry,
yeah.
but that's actually, that one's live on the streets of
It is
San
on the
Francisco.
street. Yeah,
I've
it
taken
is.
a couple rides in them.
Oh, have you really?
No, it's pretty
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
I mean, it's just-
Yeah.
And they're coming, I mean, they're gonna be
In
Here,
the
on the
city.
cities.
I didn't-
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to do the airport on the highway, but.
Right, yeah, around town.
Well, Connie, I always hope for this meeting to be our most terrifying of the year, and you have delivered. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Every once in a while, we need to give our elected leaders a good scare and remind them that the cyber budget is a no fail. So appreciate that.
Oh, you guys.
That would be a question for our potential follow-up. I know this was actually through emergency management and my participation in that earlier on. We did recommend training for our board members on some of our high-risk areas. And I would think one of the things we might want to recommend is that our board members get a briefing and some training on this topic.
Yeah, I think if we want to be specific about it, we can, Jackie, but we've previously recommended the adoption of the NIST cybersecurity and risk management frameworks, which include the concept of exercises and those types of.
Right. I'm not talking about staff. I'm saying specific training for our board members, our decision makers.
They did hold the tabletop exercise, right?
I think
Well, I'm not, yeah, but a tabletop exercise for board members
Yes.
on cybersecurity?
Yeah, cool.
When was that?
I think it was last year, I think.
Was it? Yeah, it
I
was.
think it was, I mean, that was something we had been asking for.
Okay, well, if it's already been done,
Yeah.
that's good. I just wanted to make sure we were
Yeah.
doing it because I know I have
I'm sure.
heard board members talk about it quite a bit. And particularly in connection with AI, Takis has been very specific that some of the things that cause him to go slow on AI and some of the suggestions citizens sometimes make for how to use AI to manage data and access to data. His concern has been how you get the benefits of the analysis without vulnerability to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So I just, I'm not sure, and you will understand, having done HSEEP exercises and knowing what tabletops do, I'm not sure, yes, that's useful for eye-opening. It's not the same thing as training. It's a type of training. It's not training in the context of here's what we have here in Arlington. Here's what we're doing about it. Here are our concerns, which is really more what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think, Jackie, we will take this opportunity to reiterate some of our previous recommendations, but I think also in an open forum, we are intentionally vague about what is and is not happening and when it's happening, and that's so.
True, but training is vague enough.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, and they could do that in closed session.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you very much. On to Frank's legislative update.
All right, the U.S. cable broadband subscriber growth fell to minus 1.6. I guess that's anti-growth. That's shrinkage.
Decline.
Right, yes. An all-time low in the fourth quarter of 2024, reflecting a loss of about 431,000 broadband subscribers, which is a big chunk. And this comes at a time when fixed wireless access and fiber competitors are also experiencing slowing flat subscriber growth. So I don't know if that's just a reflection of slowdown in the economy, but or maybe, I don't know if people are teaming up, but it's just an interesting development.
Maybe 5G is just good enough for people.
I guess, yeah, it could be.
Does it have anything to
But
do
it's
with the lapse of the affordable connectivity thing?
That could be a factor as well.
Expect an update.
Yes, I'll keep.
That's
I'll
right.
keep monitoring.
Next one.
At its April 28th meeting, the FCC will consider a notice of proposed rulemaking to develop a framework for evaluating whether non-IP caller authentication solutions are developed and reasonably available as required by the Trace Act. This is all part of the continuing robocall wars. And this is an update on last month's report that the FCC at its March 27th meeting did adopt a further notice of proposed rulemaking to safeguard the nation's next generation 911 transition by ensuring the reliability and interoperability of NG 911 networks. And they also adopted a sixth further notice of proposed rulemaking that proposes to strengthen caller location accuracy requirements for wireless calls to 911. And then earlier this month, the Senate Commerce Committee held a confirmation hearing for Olivia Trusty, the nominee for the open Republican seat on the FCC. She had previously been the policy director for the Senate Commerce Committee. She's appeared before that same committee for her confirmation hearing. And I've not heard a date set for it here. I think there may be some horse trading on that before that happens. But once she is seated, the Republicans will hold a 3-2 and then likely a 3-1 majority on the FCC. But there have been pretty few votes generally. I had to scrap a little to fill out my report for this month. The chairman of the FCC seems interested in other things than taking votes, like going after large media companies and tech companies too.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
DTS update, Ms. Hartel, Ms. Jewell, do you have anything for us this month?
Sure. Just as everyone knows, the budget was adopted, so the cuts that y'all saw are what we are moving forward with for 2026 and kind of working through that. The other thing I want to make sure everyone's aware of, I think you all, or many of you all received the digital equity email that the grant that is out there. There's $500,000 available to focus on digital navigation and digital skills. And if you know anybody who would be interested in applying, it closes May 15th. So trying to make sure people are aware, trying to help us focus.
For the BEAD program?
No, it's not. It's local money.
It's local.
That's local money. It actually, it's money that we got from the Carter deal with TBG that was originally dedicated to digital equity and other project initiatives. So we've got $500,000 of it and using that to focus on this grant. Seeing how it goes, and then based on that kind of comes next. But I was on a call just yesterday, and there was a significant number of people just like a call for questions of people who were interested in applying. So I was very excited to see.
Great.
The good thing is the BEAD program might be in trouble.
That is, yes.
Yes.
That's what we're very, this is local money.
Yeah, see.
The only thing I will add is we still have our AI topic floating out there. I'd love to maybe put a pin in that for
Next month? Yes, please.
if we want to just get a couple of questions from you guys to kind of steer of the presentation. So we know kind of what you want to hear
Yep.
about our AI.
We'll get that to you shortly.
Awesome.
But I still haven't had a whole lot of input from anybody, so Mike and I will just make it up if we don't hear anything else.
Right.
Here's some.
Ask ChatGPT.
Ask ChatGPT what we should ask about AI.
Of Ezra Klein. Every fall, we have a book that we all read at the Arlington Library to help educate ourselves. Any recommendations?
You have to make.
Something that does what you did on a book length scale, which is how to think about this from a local level. How,
Get back to you, how to think about cybersecurity issues on a local level?
Any,
Or any,
any tech policy.
any
any
tech,
tech
oh, any tech
policy,
policy.
any
Okay.
tech policy. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Might be words.
All right.
It's not just reading a book. We had the author also.
You're absolutely right, Jackie. I apologize.
So
We-
somebody-
So it isn't just selecting a book, it's
Right, no,
selecting a
you're
book
right.
where we might be able to get the author to come and talk.
The good folks at Arlington County Libraries help facilitate us. They have a Meet the Authors series. They bring in all sorts of authors for different things. And we try and have one.
So,
on
yeah,
tech
someone
policy.
who's in the DMV.
DOB.
Our author last year was
Ohio, the
Ohio State University. So
Okay, so we have a small travel budget.
I think it depends on what the author's willing to do. But yes, there's
Okay.
a small
stipend.
program fee that the Arlington County Libraries has. But it's
Inspire their football team to be.
indeed, it was us. We got them over the finish line. All right.
I realize this happened sometime around the time of your last meeting, but you reminded me, we did block a number of sites. There is, if you go to Arlington VA application restrictions, you can see what has been blocked. So kind of aligning with what the Virginia has said, as well as some of the lines in the federal conversations happening. So if you're interested in seeing what's there, we've blocked it internally as well as people on Arlington Wireless. We were very careful with libraries. So if your team coming in and use TikTok, you now no longer can have access to it. And then also for our personal devices or devices that people have in the county, no TikTok on your county devices as well. So,
Bill, that's a point.
so I'm trying to remember because I know we were aiming to do it around 331.
Interesting.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
We will change rooms next month, so I'll send you an invite update, so you'll know the room.
Great.
We got booted for, I think some voter, activities.
Yeah, it's Virginia. We get to vote every year.
Yeah.
Look at that.
No.
Whether you
At least
want to or not.
Sometimes twice.
All right, I'll turn motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
That was fascinating.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much.
Loved it.